This is the Lanshan 2 tent, and a year ago, well nearly a year ago, I did a review of it after I'd done the Scottish National Trail where I'd used it for 30 days. Now it's had 80 days of use. Just got back from doing the Colorado Trail with my wife. I'm just going to give you an update on why this tent for me is still absolutely brilliant. I still love this tent. So first up, I'm going to have a chat with you about the materials that have been used to make this tent, because it's now had a lot of use, and if you're spending a lot of money on the tent, you want to make sure it's not going to last you 5 minutes and then you have to chuck it in the bin. At the time I thought that the materials on the tent were really good, and it's still the case. I have to say this fly sheet is absolutely brilliant. When we were on the Colorado Trail we got a lot of really heavy thunderstorms and hail, and that fly sheet never let a drop of rain at all. Now we know other people on the trail who had issues with water getting into their tents. This didn't. It was absolutely fantastic, as I say. So for me, whatever they're using to make the fly sheet, absolutely top quality. Now I did have to make a couple of repairs, but neither of these were the fault of the tent. So the first one was I've had to do a little bit of a repair on that bit there, where I think I got it snagged on a tree when I was hanging it up to dry, so it got a very tiny hole in. And I used tenacious tape, which works brilliantly. If you haven't got any, it works brilliant for doing repairs. So I did the repair there, that worked fine. And there was another repair I've had to make on here, where it looks like the kind of seam is split a bit, but actually again that was caused by me not putting the tent up correctly. The pole wasn't in the right place, and I think it put a bit of extra pressure on when we had a bit of storm, so it split slightly. But again, that's had 2 repairs on, they've worked perfectly well. So now the inner tent. Now again, bear in mind that I would say of the 80 days, 60 of those have been shared with somebody else, mostly with my wife Judith. That was with me on this last Colorado Trail. And again, the inner, when you first get it, it looks a bit flimsy, but it's not. It's been remarkably resilient. One repair I've had to do on it, but that was where I kind of put a hot match through it, so you can't really blame the tent for that. But the zips, again, in perfect working order as they were when I first got it. So there's no kind of really any signs of wear and tear on the tent at all after all that use. Now, when it comes to the ground sheet, yeah, again, this ground sheet is fantastic. There's no puncture holes in this at all. Now, I was concerned when I went on the Colorado Trail, because a lot of the ground that you're pitching on is on underneath trees, which you don't get here in the UK. So a lot of time I was worried that I was going to get some sort of puncture holes through the ground sheet, but not at all. You know, it still looks as it did when I got it, the day I got it. You know, so again, I think for kind of durability, this tent is just is spot on. It's as good as any tent I've had before, and some that have cost, you know, 5 times as much. So I'm really impressed with that. Now, the only thing to mention about the ground sheet is what I did notice in the last week that we're on the Colorado Trail is we obviously used 2 thermarests, all right, when to sleep on, and the pressure when the ground was waterlogged, any pressure that we put down, there was some seepage of water up through where we were lying, but it wasn't a massive problem because we were quite confident. I mean, I left my GoPro just inside the tent, Judith left her phone just inside the tent. They didn't get wet at all, so there was a little bit of leakage through the ground sheet, but only when it had our full kind of pressure on it. But aside from that, yeah, it still is as it was when I bought it. Now, one of the great things about this tent when we used it in Colorado was the fact that you can pitch it out to first. So we often had thunderstorms or really heavy rain coming in. So if we wanted to, we could pitch this out to first, and it could act as a shelter for us. So I'm going to put my stopwatch on. I'm going to show you now how quickly, all right, I can get the outer of this tent up. So 3, 2, 1, go. So that's 2:13. I think I've done a run. 2 minutes 13 seconds to get the outer up. Obviously it's not perfect, but it meant that really quickly, all right, you can get yourselves into shelter out of the, you know, potentially really heavy rain and wind. So it's just a really positive thing about that tent. Now another fantastic feature of this tent that we used a lot on the Colorado Trail where we could was if we had a nice evening where it wasn't raining, there were quite a few mosquitoes about. What we could do is, obviously it's got a really good mosquito net on it, and you can just open the doors right back, so it just helps to get a really good airflow through the tent, and also meant that it was just nice to be able to kind of just sit in it. You kind of feel that you're outside anyway. So again, that's just a really nice feature, being able to pull these doors right back on both sides. You know, if you've got midges, mosquitoes, that type of thing. So I've talked about how brilliant it was having been able to pitch the outer first when you had sort of a thunderstorm or anything come in. The other good thing is being able to keep that outer and that inner separate was also really useful a lot of times, because we'd wake up in the morning with the outer tent still really wet from the thunderstorms. So if I wanted to, I could very quickly just unclip the inner tent. So it's just got some little clips that you can pull down. As per usual, when you try and do things more quickly, it never works, does it? But the inner just unclips really quickly. And what it meant was, it meant I could pack away the inner and the outer separately, and then during the day I could just take the outer out and get that dried properly. So again, it just helped us avoiding getting the inner tent wet. We were able to keep this inner tent dry all the time, despite us having a lot of rain on that particular trip. Now this tent isn't perfect, all right, there are some limitations to it, and I talked about those on my original review, which I've posted the link to underneath this one, and also why I don't think there's any use for 4-season use, and again I did a video on that which I've posted the link to underneath. But for us, for the 2 big backpacking trips, it just ticks so many boxes, this tent. You know, it's lightweight, it's versatile, and it's proving so far to be really durable. Now, when I got it 12 months ago, it was £95, and obviously I'm aware that the price of it has increased substantially. So in the UK now, you can pick these up for about £150 to £160 still on eBay. Would I buy this tent again at that price? Absolutely. You know, I just think it's still, even at that price, really good value. As always, if anybody's got any other comments, anything they want to add, anyone want to ask me about the tent, you know, please feel free to do so, and thank you for watching.